going to go into a review of the movie Immaculate. Immaculate is a new movie starring Sidney Sweeney, which I'm sure many of you already know because you're all obsessed with Sidney Sweeney. And you know what? I don't blame you because I am too, just a little bit. But Immaculate is a new horror film that came out recently, and there have been a lot of positive reviews, not so positive reviews. The film follows a very young woman of devout faith. She is from Detroit, and she goes to Italy to basically take care of elderly and sickly nuns who are about to meet their demise, like they're about to die. And something very interesting happens in the movie where she soon realizes that she has been impregnated and she has had laid with no man. So now the film kind of follows, you know, everything after what happens to her there. And I do have to say, like, just to get this out of the way, because this is something I find annoying sometimes. Whenever there is a movie where an American goes to another country and that country does not primarily speak English, bringing a book that says Italian for dummies is not the same thing as learning Italian. Oh
Yeah.
my gosh.
Yeah.
Learn Italian. Like, that's the same thing they did with this show. I don't remember the exact name of it. I think it was Exo Kitty on Netflix, where this young Korean American girl went to Korea and she was like, oh, my boyfriend will translate for me. No. Learn Korean. Why are you going to another country and you don't know the language that everybody in that country will speak? What makes you think they will accommodate for you, girl?
Like, she's going to the countryside, not like Rome, not like a metropolitan touristy area. That did like strike me in the movie when I saw that book. I was like, what was the plan?
Girl, you
she
can't
gets
bring
to the
that book
convent,
everywhere.
She gets to the convent and can't understand most of the people speaking to her. So I'm like, how are you going to... But I think that does feed into something I picked up on the movie. Just the countryside is beautiful, but there's an uncomfortability, and I don't know if maybe the language barrier was supposed to be part of it, but at no point is Cecilia, Sidney Sweeney's character, ever like, she doesn't ever experience a moment of like, yes, I'm here. You know, that honeymoon moment that we see in most storylines before things start to go south? She never experiences it. From being shut out language-wise to Sister Isabel being mean and the staring that she's getting from, the ominous staring.
Right.
And maybe the language was part of it. Like, it's always uncomfortable from the very beginning, including at immigration or customs or wherever she was with those officers. And to me, since this is a religious, movie with religious theme, I can only I can only deduce that she keeps moving forward despite the uncomfortability, because in religious circles, especially the big three or whatever, we're told, and I'm not Catholic, I'm Baptist, but we're told that like faith is supposed to be uncomfortable. We're sinners. It's supposed to be uncomfortable. It's supposed to be hard. It's not supposed to be comfy. But yeah, the Italian for Dummies, which we never saw her pick up or open after she got there.
No. Never. No one even like took the time to even teach her Italian, and there were people there who spoke English too. So it's like, and eventually there were people who just speaking English there,
Yes.
Which, like, to your point, it's the countryside. Where did y'all learn how to speak English? I get that some churches do provide like translation services, so like maybe that's it. But I honestly feel like Sidney Sweeney, girl, I know you're always working, but like we could have learned a little bit of Italian. Like, even like just basic conversational Italian. It will not kill y'all to speak a different language.
Yeah.
Jesus. That's why, like, I'm Haitian American, and like,
me too.
Oh, see, I knew, but I didn't want to ask, because sometimes I ask people, are you Haitian? They're like, no, I'm from Ghana. I'm like, oh, sorry. Sorry. I just assume everybody with a big nose is Haitian. My bad. But like, I'm Haitian American, and I don't speak Creole that well. But even when I see like white people, like white missionaries speaking Creole, it's like, who taught you that?
Yeah.
Like, if they can learn Creole, which is
Yeah.
not an easy language, it's like basically like French, but not really French. And y'all can learn Italian, one of the most popular languages out there. Like, girl, what's going
Yeah.
on? What's up?
Yeah. Get a language coach.
Get Duolingo, get Babbel, girl, get something, get some help. Yeah, but I think that you're right. I feel like for Sydney, I think there were some moments where she felt like not comfortable, but like she was kind of getting used to it. You know what I mean? Because she is pretty young. Like Sidney Sweeney, I think is like in her like late 20s. But in the movie, they do a really good job of making her look like very young, like,
Yeah.
16, 17 maybe. And when you're watching the film, it's clear that like she does feel a little bit out of place and a little bit uncomfortable. But I feel like it's almost an uncomfortability that's not foreign to her because she was already a pretty devout person of faith in Detroit. So now being here in Italy, she's just trying to like adjust. You know what I mean? So in horror films, when they like start off with the character just already feeling kind of uncomfortable and just kind of feeling like a little like things are a little off, being in that new environment almost like lowers their guard when things start being weird. You know, like that
Yeah.
time where she was like sleeping and she thought she saw that face in the doorway.
In the doorway.
That set me off. That's
Me
why
too.
that set me off. That's why I close my closet door and my bedroom door when I sleep. Because the one thing I don't want to see is a face. I shoot out the bed. I'm fighting. I can't do it. I'm not hiding under the covers. Because I hide under the covers, I come out, they get me. Like, I can't do it. That's why she turned around and she got the light. I'm like, oh, they're going to get her. And it was gone. I was like, oh. But
Yeah.
I like the subtle horror because it's like, is something in the darkness? Is there someone there?
Yes, I enjoyed that very much. But and I don't go watch horror movies a lot. But I did enjoy in this movie I enjoyed the jump scares. I know some people don't like jump scares. They can be cheap at times. They can be a cop out. But I think this movie did the jump scares very well. The lady, in the doorway when that other sister was like on the side of her bed and popped up and like cut her hair, just chilling there.
Yeah.
It was well done. It was well done. Yeah.
Yes, absolutely.
But did you think Cecilia? You thought Cecilia was like 16, 17? I thought she was like early 20s, like 20, 21.
I feel like her age was meant to be ambiguous on purpose, but obviously she's supposed to be emulating the young Virgin Mary, and she was 16, according to like religious researchers at the time that she had like the baby Jesus. So I think that she was meant to be like around that age, but I feel like 20s is an easy thing to like assume because like most of the young girls there, they do look a little bit older than her, and I feel like there was obviously like they went out of their way, the production went out of their way to make Sydney look a little bit younger than everyone else to make her look like, innocent and like almost childlike and like, I hate this word, but like virginal, in the movie.
Yeah.
Yes, and I think that another thing that I really liked about the movie, because me personally, I do like horror films. I don't like nun movies. I don't. I can't do it. I can't do nun movies because like they're scary, but also like they go too scary sometimes. Like they do a little too much for me. And
I haven't seen the nun movies. I'm gonna put that on because I do an October scary series where I look at horror movies. I watch horror movies for October, so I'm gonna add the nun movies to my list.
I'm not talking about like the nun movies. I'm talking about movies. I'm talking about horror movies with nuns. Period. Period. Because whether it's the movie The Nun or The Omen or the crap, what's the one? The one with in the house with the two couples. The Exorcist. I think that's it.
Exorcist?
It might be The Exorcist. It might be something else. I don't remember exactly. But like those kind of movies where there's like a religious element to like possession and that kind of stuff. I can't watch it because me, like, I'm a person of faith, and like when I watch horror movies, I need to be able to suspend my disbelief. Y'all make it too real for me. I can't go to sleep at night. I can't do it. It's too much. And I feel like this movie was fun because it's, first of all, set in Italy. I love when a horror movie is not set in America, because I'm like, see, that could never happen to me, because I don't fall
Because
in
it's in another
planes.
country.
Mm-hmm. Ain't finna happen to me. Also, I'm not Catholic, so I'm good. But I think the one thing that I liked about this movie that's very different from other religious horror films is that there is like the introduction of science into it with Father Saul, and also like there were little hints at the beginning that like these people are not who they seem to be, which like obviously you have to assume with authority figures when you're watching a horror movie, but Father Saul, when I don't know if it was Father Saul or Sidney Sweeney's character, when Cecilia said, "Oh, they reached out to me, they flew me out, and they like, took care of me to bring me here." I'm like, okay. In any normal context, that would be so kind and
Yeah.
so gracious, but in this context, it is worrying.
Yes.
You gotta go.
In this context, it sounds like you were a mark.
And when they're
And that your
driving,
pastor or your not pastor but father or reverend,
yeah.
but your priest back home is probably part of this, because she says that her priest was the one who told her about this
Mm-hmm.
convent.
Yeah. They're all in this together.
So that's my question. I want to hear your thoughts on Father Sal, because
Yeah.
there was a science element in this movie, and it's ironic that it's called Immaculate, and they grilled her about like, did you ever lay with a boy or a man or whatever? Because it's like what Father Sal did was assistive reproduction, so it wouldn't have mattered if but I guess it was maybe to convince her. It
Yeah.
wouldn't have mattered if she was not a virgin because it's assistive reproduction.
Mm-hmm.
But do you think, because yeah, Father Sal had that whole monologue where he was like, I'm a geneticist, and my research is encouraged here. But do you think he believed? Do you think he was a man of faith, or was he purely like about the scientific experiment of using old DNA to bring new life?
The thing is that like Father Saul reminds me of a lot of other protagonists that I have read in Christian fiction, because I used to read a lot of Christian fiction when I was like very young, and a lot of times of Christian fiction, the protagonist, usually male, they have like these strange ideas about faith where they want to play God, and they act
Yeah.
like they're doing it for like his glory, and girl, it's not. It's for you, because you want a piece of the pie, you want some of the power. You cannot be a pious man and think that you
Yeah.
could take Jesus's DNA off of a nail and then make a baby and then put that in a woman, because if you are of the faith, then you know that like his physical body wouldn't be the same as like the body of God. You know what I mean? Like it's a baby still. It's a person.
Yeah.
Within the Christian faith, like Jesus is the Son of Man. Within any other faith, Jesus is a prophet. So within
Yeah.
any other faith, any other perspective, that's a person that was nailed to a cross and died. So you're
Mm-hmm.
pulling off old DNA that could not be fresh, is not fresh at all, girl. Like no, not fresh. It doesn't matter if he was
Yeah.
born in the 1600s. No, it's a long time ago, okay? So you're pulling old DNA and you're trying to genetically modify it to make a person. In his mind, he feels like he's doing his calling, like the calling that God has for him. Because, there are scientific Christians that talk about how like
Yeah.
the Big Bang was like was God like creating the world. And there are other, different ideologies within like scientific Christian and that study and that belief. But I think that Father Saul truly thought that like he was like doing what he was meant to do. Because like Cecilia, she said, I drowned and I died for 7 minutes. And she's like, obviously God wanted me here for some kind of reason. And Father Saul possibly was like looking for a vessel or some kind of body. And I don't know how
Yeah.
many other young women they were trying to seek out in America or wherever to try and carry this child. But obviously, one of the girls at the convent was one of them. And he heard about Cecilia and must have read about her in the paper and was like, you know what? She'll be perfect because she has touched death, she has beat it. So she's basically like the perfect vessel for this little baby. And I don't know what he was thinking was going to happen. Like she was actually going to give birth to Jesus, but that man
Yeah,
is
I'm not
delusional.
clear on if they're trying to
Delusional.
birth Jesus or just Jesus's descendant.
I
But
think
I
probably
actually,
descendant, but also like I think
oh,
he
that's
thought
what I
like
assume.
I think he thought that like it was gonna be Jesus, Jesus, the
That, well,
Messiah.
Father Sal is actually where I think the movie is a bit weak
Mm.
because I wanted more of his motivation, other than not motivation, but his, I guess, his internal thinking. We know
Mm.
his motivation was, to just the experiment of it all and to make this make fetch happen, make this baby happen.
Mm.
But how long was it just him? Did he inherit this work from someone else? Because that sister is very old.
Yeah.
So who, and Father Sal is very young. So who tried to impregnate her before? I
Yeah.
wanted to know more about him as the antagonist and the bad guy, like um his own personal mindset and thinking. And I also think the movie in terms of, in addition to exploring female autonomy, female bodily autonomy, and the role of the church and all of that stuff. Speaking of science, I do see both in terms of Cecilia's drowning and this baby that was, and also did Father Sal use his own essence to fertilize
Um,
the
I,
egg?
I don't know. I'm gonna be very honest. I don't know, but I think that
That's the type of stuff I'm like,
I want
the
to
mechanic.
expand on what you said, where you want to learn more about Father Sal. I want to learn more about the church because you remember them nuns are walking around with those red like masks.
What was that?
What was
Yes.
it? I
What
need to
was that?
understand what's going on with the church because they must have some kind of weird ideology that fit in very perfectly with Father Sal. Because you're right, a lot of the people there are old. They're older. Father Sal is pretty young, and it is unlikely for a young priest to go to a convent or a church or whatever and be like, I have this interesting idea on how we
Yeah.
can restructure Christianity and our faith. It's very unlikely they'll be like, I'm listening. I'm hearing you. I see that. Like they're not gonna do
Yes.
that unless along the lines, unless something in their brains they believe in some kind of like different branch of their own belief
Yeah.
or their own faith. And Father Sal kind of like slides in there like a puzzle piece, and that's fine. But there isn't
Yeah.
enough for us to know in that film to like really grasp that concept. I mean, with them having the nail from Jesus being hanged on the cross, it's very likely there are other artifacts
Right.
that also there are a lot of churches that hold on to those kind of artifacts. It's kind of like they use those artifacts as like this is a physical piece of our
Representation.
faith.
Yeah.
But I think I would have liked to know a little bit more about that, and I would have liked to know a little bit more about like why y'all torturing people.
I think you're right in terms of the fact that,
This has
in
to
terms
run
of
deep.
Father Sal's age, because when you
Mm-hmm.
think about the church, period, the
Yeah.
Christian church, whatever denomination, the convent is full of old heads. And old
Yeah.
heads, old religious people,
Yeah.
usually aren't down with the innovative science. So how did he manage to convince them,
Uh-huh.
or who convinced them, when we're thinking about, all those babies in tubes and stuff, who convinced them that this was worth trying,
Mm-hmm.
or that this was godly?
Also, it's not easy to create life, and for him to do it successfully and like probably with his henchmen, and you're doing it in like the basement of a church. Like I feel like there has to be something more there. You know what I mean? Like
Yeah.
I know it's just like
Yeah.
one movie, but I would be interested in knowing if like they plan on making a sequel because I feel like it could work if there's a sequel. And since we already have the first film, if y'all do like some kind of prequel that explains like what is going on here, I would be interested. Because the thing is, like, this movie is its own idea almost. I would say it's pretty original when you think about other like horror films with like nuns and like the Catholic
Yeah.
Church. And most of those films that have nuns and like the Catholic Church, they just base it off of what people already know about Christianity, and you have introduced this very new topic that kind of ties in some ideas that people have in the modern day. So it I feel like it would benefit from having like some kind of like background or some kind of like history lesson. You know what I mean? Just so we have like a better understanding of what's going on.
Yeah, I wish they had included that in this movie.
Mm-hmm.
So something else that struck me about the movie in terms of symbolism is the fact that the choice to make the convent a place where women go to die. It's
Yeah.
just full of sick and dying women.
I think that's
I think that's an interesting choice.
I think that's something that does happen in convents because like the women go there like a lot of times women you become a nun you're a nun for life, you know what I mean?
Right.
Yeah, I don't think that was that out of the ordinary, and I feel like because there is so much death there, and everyone was not that shook by it in the same way that Cecilia was. It's another indicator of like weird stuff happens at this convent, but we don't really bat an eye on it because Sister Mary passed away last week, and it could just be some thing going on in regards to like her passing away or someone's just like sad, like they don't really like find it weird if you're in a convent where all the nuns or older nuns are sent there to like die and like live out their last days. When there are people walking around at night, it could be a nun, it could be an old nun. When there are weird noises going on, it could be some old nun who doesn't want to take a bath. If you already have something strange going on that is like the baseline normal at your convent, anything a little weirder, you could just revert back to the baseline and nobody bats an eye and nobody cares and nobody thinks about it. So I feel like that was just an easy way for them to like, let people's guard down.
Yeah. But with the I guess theme of the movie, the hijacking of women's bodies and bodily autonomy, it puts the convent also being a place, where, women are sick and they're dying. It puts it in a different light just because of what this movie was exploring.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, that's very, very true. And I did want to get your thoughts because when we had talked earlier about talking about this movie, I had brought up that I feel like it's very similar to Rosemary's Baby. And I've seen some other people online talk about that they feel like this is like a modern retelling of Rosemary's Baby almost. So I want to get your thoughts on it. If you like have seen Rosemary's Baby, or like how would you draw comparisons to it?
I may have seen Rosemary's Baby, but I do not. It must have been a very long time ago because I don't remember a single detail. I may have seen Rosemary's Baby when I was in college.
But you understand like the parallel.
In terms of what's inside her. Yes, yeah. Yeah, I can see that. I see the parallel. Mm-hmm. Because I did when she birthed that baby, which was Sidney Sweeney did an amazing job with that birthing scene. Amazing job.
Not even the birthing scene. Throughout the whole movie, she was really giving it her all. And that's one thing that I love. Sidney Sweeney is a good actress.
Yes.
She's a great actress.
And when the baby pops out, when the baby comes out, the sounds it was making, Well, the sounds it was making, I was like, is it going to start crying? Is it a baby?
That's what I was asking. Why is the baby not crying?
Yeah. We were just like on the logical tip. We're like, is it going to start crying?
The baby started growling.
Yes.
And like huffing. And I was like, oh.
I was like, is it stuffed? Because it was sounding like it was maybe kind of choking. But
that's something that I find like so interesting sometimes when people talk about like making life for like clones and stuff. Because no one really like examines like souls and like personalities and like our brains and like what happens when you like give life to an empty body. Like what's in there? You know what I mean? Like no one wants to think that deeply about it. But like after she gave birth to that baby and like she is like staring at that baby horrified, I'm like, oh, so what? And also remember when she was lying down and the fetus was moving in her stomach? Yeah. Absolutely not. They don't do that. They don't do that.
I will say I don't know what it is about it, but I was all in with the movie. But when she bit that umbilical cord and tore it with her teeth, I was like, did we just cross over into a little bit of camp, like a little bit of like melodrama? It just seemed over the top, which is a weird thing to say, but it just seemed like
this is a lot.
Yeah.
Also,
and
I want to say real quick, I'm someone who does not think that pregnancy is an easy thing. When she started like losing her teeth and she could like rip out her fingernails, obviously like that's like an indicator like there's something in her that is not up. That's not, this ain't right. This ain't right, right? But when you have children and when you're pregnant, a lot of weird things happen to your body. And there have been some reports that there are women that lose their teeth during their pregnancy. And it's just something that happens. And I feel like a lot of people do not expect that in pregnancy, because when you see pregnancy in movies, it's like, oh, it's just normal. Like, my feet hurt, I'm tired, and I'm hungry, and I have cravings. Like,
have cravings,
yeah. Some women get acne. Like, they have acne again when they're pregnant. And you don't think about that. So a lot of, I feel like also this movie, I don't know what times movie happened, but I'm sure like there are women that were like in the time before modern medicine happened that were getting pregnant, and when their pregnancies were like making them lose their hair and like, you know, making them feel sick. It's like, girl, there's something inside you that is not right. So when I saw that happen in the movie, I was like, oh, well, that just happens in pregnancy. But in my head, I'm like, no, girl, this is a horror movie. I'm like, yeah, you're right.
That it means something.
Yes, it means something. Symbolism, girl.
Yes.
Exactly.